Happy Thanksgiving Eve to you, Central Georgia. Thanks for tuning in here for a look at your extended forecast. We got rid of our weather impact alert pretty early this morning. It became pretty evident late last night that we weren't going to see anything in the way of severe weather. Never a bad thing in our business, but we did have our fair share of widely scattered showers in the forecast. So the question is, how much rain did they bring us, and do we have any more rain on the horizon? Well, let's take a look at some of those 48-hour rainfall totals. This is the map as a whole. I haven't mapped out any specific values as of just yet. We'll talk about that in just a moment, but the main thing that you can see, we did not get as much rain as areas up in northwest Georgia, back over into eastern Alabama. Right along that state line, we see plenty of green, yellow, even some red and orange shades, and that's going to indicate some totals that got up to 1 inch, 2, maybe even some localized spots got up to around 4 inches of rain. In central Georgia, it's a story of mainly blue. Yes, we do have these green dots in Wilkinson County, over in Twiggs County, and we actually have a very minuscule one down in southern Macon County. But most areas found themselves only getting a couple tenths of an inch of rain, even if that. Some of our southeastern counties, they didn't get rain whatsoever. Just a couple of light sprinkles down in southern Lawrence County, portions of Dodge, Wilcox County, and especially down in Telfair, Wheeler, and Montgomery counties. We only just saw a couple sprinkles across those counties early this morning. But now let's zoom in and go piece by piece. We'll get some specific values to pop up. Across northern areas of central Georgia, only about a couple 1/100ths of an inch of rain in Milledgeville, 2/10 in Gray, just over a 1/2 inch of rain in southern Monroe County, southwest of Bolingbroke, only 2/10 of an inch of rain in Forsyth. Over just southwest of Thomaston, actually got a total above the inch mark, and that is the same up here in northern Jasper County. But you can see at the top of this 48-hour rainfall totals, because I have to go back 2 days out prior, because we got some rain a little more than 24 hours ago, courtesy of that Boeing segment that came through north and northwest Georgia yesterday. That resulted in a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings, and some of those pockets of heavy rain did move across northern portions of Jasper and Putnam counties. But all in all, still didn't really dump as much rain as we thought. Just north of Monticello, 1.3 inches of rain. And then once you get into this green patch right here, 1.5 inches of rain just across the county line of Butts County up into Henry County. And then right here in the middle of Spalding County, 3 inches of rain over the last 48 hours. And then we take it down a little bit farther south. It does look like we had a good cluster of some showers that moved from kind of southwest up to the northeast. 2.5 inches of rain right here around Danville. That's going to be really close to where our radar is in Twiggs County, pretty close to the Jeffersonville area. 1.5 inches of rain southeast of Irwinton, and then you go into northern Houston County, areas closer over to the Bon Air area, just where 96 starts to go past the base, and you get into that heavily wooded area and along the Ocmulgee River. 1 inch of rain, 1.9 inches of rain over to the southwest of Warner Robins, close to the Kathleen area. 0.1 inches of rain in Fort Valley, so obviously not a very impressive total. Only a couple 1/100ths of an inch of rain over in Butler, and down in Marshallville, about 3/10 of an inch of rain. But you can spot this lone dot of green right here. So the very southern tip of Macon County, going down into Sumter County, just over 2 inches of rain, and then some portions of Chris County got lucky, about 3/4 of an inch of rain. But all in all, once again, just around 1/4 of an inch of rain, or even some totals that were less than that. And you definitely didn't get much down here in our southeastern counties. McRae, Alamo, Soperton. I know I had a couple comments on Facebook. People down in Telfair County hoping for some rain out of this system. Not to worry, we do have a more impressive rainmaker that is going to be on its way, and it's going to be past the Thanksgiving holiday. But we haven't gotten this rainfall total calculated into our 2025 rainfall. So you are going to notice a big change on this graphic with just 5 simple letters: below average. We have been above average for nearly 3 months. In fact, we were 7 inches above average after this very wet month of August that we had. 6 inches more of rain than we usually see in the month of August on average. But September has been dry, October has been dry, and November has been dry. In fact, at this point in the month of November, we are hovering exactly the same amount below average that we were in the month of September. And if we don't get much rain for the last 5 days of the month, then of course that total is going to continue to go down and that number is going to continue to get farther and farther below average. But right now we essentially are right on par with where we should be at this point in the calendar year for how much rain we've received from January 1st all the way until now. All this data, note the date, November 25th. Today is November 26th, so we haven't taken into account our rainfall totals that we did get. I imagine they're not going to lead to much improvement with that below average number. So your main headlines now, weather impact alert is all done. And in fact, we are finally starting to clear out. So drying out for the Thanksgiving holiday tomorrow. Cold mornings, and you're probably used to me saying, okay, some pleasant days or warm days after that. No, and cool days. We are going to have some high temperatures that are going to make it pretty chilly from sunup all the way into sundown and continuing into those overnight hours, of course. And we are staying dry until we get to Sunday. So I know that's going to be a day many folks are heading back into town. Many of you have probably already made your way out of town early this Wednesday morning. But let's go over the forecast. Maybe you can pair up the smart TV with 13 WMAZ Plus wherever you're going to visit family and tune into this extended forecast. Here's a walk around the quad. Mostly sunny skies, but we do have our fair share of higher level cloud cover in the forecast. And this is exactly what Future View was saying as of the last couple of days. It is still a forecast that's dominated by sunshine. And the big thing that you're noticing is the drying out of all those puddles and water that were sitting on the ground early this morning. Yes, you can see some areas of the walkways here at the fairgrounds that are a little bit darker than others, indicating that they haven't quite dried out just yet. But this is also kind of near some trees, so providing a little bit of shade. Those areas in direct sunshine are continuing to dry out a little bit quicker than others. And also note your flags down here at the west gate, moving from right to left very steadily, indicating that we have a bit of a northerly component to our wind, because this is facing directly over to the west. When the winds are blowing from right to left, that means that the breeze is coming in from the north. Here's a look at your temperatures. They honestly haven't changed too much from this morning. Yes, we do have some 70s on your temperature map now, but it is still saying the same thing that it was earlier today. Cooler temperatures farther up to the northwest, but as you go down to the south and the southeast, it is going to be slightly warmer. Now, overnight into the early morning hours, areas farther to the south and the southeast were a little bit warmer because, number one, it was a more humid atmosphere in the areas that were receiving some scattered showers. And number two, you had some cloud cover present. It was a lot clearer up to the north and the northwest because that's the direction our frontal boundary came through in. So they are starting to feel the impacts behind that frontal boundary a little bit earlier than areas like Dublin, McRae, down to Vidalia, where 75 sits as the warmest number here at the 11 a.m. hour. So here's a look at your current temperatures, and we always like to compare our numbers to our neighboring cities. 75 in Vidalia matches the temperature in Jacksonville. Actually cooler in Texas for a change. How about that? 66 in Houston, 61 down in Laredo, and 80 degrees down in Orlando. That's the warmest temperature that we can spot. But the big picture view does tell the story about this frontal boundary passing through, northwesterly winds settling in, and much cooler air up here in kind of the Missouri Valley, getting into the Ohio Valley region of the country. But that cooler air is soon going to push down into the south and the southeast after the second of two fronts does pass through later on today. And we can talk about that with your dew point temperatures. Still holding on to some shades of light green. And once again, the more humid areas over to the east and the southeast, as opposed to these mid-50s dew points that you see over to the west and the northwest. But when we take a look at the state of Georgia as a whole, obviously a bit of a sensor issue down there in Valdosta. There is still some swampy areas of humidity, dark green down in South Georgia, northern Florida, plenty of light green as you make your way towards the Atlantic coast. But all the way back up here into northern Alabama, starting to creep into northwest Georgia, the second of two fronts is going to pass through. It's really close to this first one that made its way through that drove our rain chances in, but that secondary one is really going to pull in that cooler and drier air as we go throughout the course of today. And your winds have begun to shift direction. They were coming out of the south and the southwest, and that's what was ushering in moisture back into our forecast. Well, now they are coming out of the northwest and starting to see some shades of yellow build in a bit more widespread. But right now it's anywhere from about a 6 to a 10 mile per hour sustained wind. We have the potential for some gusts up to 20 miles per hour throughout this afternoon. All in all, I think tomorrow is going to be more of a talking point in terms of the breeze that will be present. So yesterday's almanac, we always like to talk about the numbers. And how about this? I know for a fact it's at least the third day over the course of the past week that we have broken a record high temperature. It may very well have been the 4th day that we've done so. Wasn't paying too close attention to the numbers that we had this past weekend, but 82 degrees, 1 degree above what I had forecasted, which was already above the record of 80 degrees set back in 1958. 58 was your morning low temperature, so well above average of 40 degrees. So we were 18 degrees above average for your morning lows, and your afternoon high temperatures 16 degrees above average. That has been the name of the game really over the past 2 weeks. We have to go back to early last week that we actually saw some morning low temperatures around freezing and even a tad bit below freezing temperature, but that was fairly short-lived, and your afternoon high temperatures still each and every day after getting that cold in the mornings did warm up above our average mark, which sat somewhere around the 70-degree mark just about a week and a half ago. But very thankful it's not 1950, I will tell you that. We are going to be talking about some cold temperatures, but nowhere near that cold. 10 degrees back in 1950. That is definitely a blast of winter weather. In fact, I haven't even seen temperatures that cold in my time forecasting weather here in central Georgia, except for when we did get some snow that day after we got the snow early, way back almost about a year ago into mid-January. We did see some temperatures dip that low and even some feels like numbers that got into the single digits. So obviously, having that in late November, very uncharacteristic, but very thankfully, it is not 1950. It is 2025, so 75 years later, we're talking about above average temperatures, not well below average temperatures. But no rain recorded as of yesterday on the almanac. So of course, the rain that we got overnight in the early morning hours, that's going to be taken into account on today's almanac graphic that Ben will fill you in with once he gets in later on this evening. And your year departure of rain, we have seen the positive flip over into a negative. We are now below at the point where we should be in the calendar year for amounts of rainfall, and we may get a little bit of a cushion when we add in the rainfall totals that we saw overnight, but I'd only anticipate maybe a couple tenths of an inch. That maybe puts that number slightly back above average. In a matter of a couple of days, it will once again be back in the negative category. Sunrise 7:14 yesterday, and your sunset 5:29 p.m. Once we go to December 1st, which it's hard to believe it's already next Monday, that will be your earliest sunset, 5:27 p.m. So the good news is your sunset not going to get much earlier. In fact, after we get a couple days into the month of December, the sunset will continue to get later and later and later, along with your sunrise, which right now is at 7:14, right around 7:15 in the morning each and every day. That sunrise will continue to get later and later and later until we get sometime around that shortest calendar day of the year, the first day of winter on December 21st. Then I imagine your sunrise is going to start to creep back a little bit earlier, very minusculely. So now let's talk about today. 74 degrees. You see the rain icon right here. I actually forgot to go edit your 7-day forecast because we don't have any more rain chances today. We are in the clear. It is going to be a mostly sunny day. I just wanted to include this in the morning show while we still had some showers in the picture. But 74 degrees for a high temperature, that's a whole lot better than 82 degrees that we did hit yesterday. So it's going to feel a whole lot more pleasant this afternoon compared to yesterday if it was too warm for your liking. And if you're like me, we shouldn't have the 80s this late in the month of December, but it's central Georgia. I've experienced 80-degree Christmases here in the past. So all in all, we will take any form of relief that we can get, but 74 is still about 8 degrees above average of 66 degrees this time of year. The difference is 74 is going to be paired up with drier air later on today, and it's also going to be paired up with a steady breeze out of the northwest, where some of your wind gusts could get up to around 20 miles per hour throughout the rest of today. So of course your meteogram doesn't go that high, but we've well overshot the numbers that this has showed over the past couple of days. So I do imagine we'll do a very similar thing later on. 72 degrees right now in the 2 to 3 p.m. hour. In fact, we already have some areas around that 72 degree mark. So up here in Macon, maybe just a little bit cooler because we are farther up to the northwest than say Vidalia, who's at 75 degrees so far. And then we'll begin to cool down. This evening into tonight is going to be the first indication that the cooler air is arriving. Obviously, these numbers not too bad, but starting to get a tad bit chilly, maybe around 5 to 6 p.m. But the farther and farther that you're out later on tonight, those numbers are going to drop pretty quickly because we have a pretty low morning temperature for tomorrow, and we have a ways to go from 64 degrees in order to hitting that. So we are going to cool down pretty quickly as we go into the nighttime hours. Satellite and radar picture. Partly cloudy skies, and most of this cloud cover is of the higher level cloud cover variety. So not doing a very good job of blocking the sunshine whatsoever. But the big headline is no rain to be found here in central Georgia anymore. We actually have to go down closer to Waycross, just to the south of us, a couple counties south of us, maybe even a couple flashes of lightning. It's kind of hard to tell right there if that's just a very white band of cloud cover or if that is anything attributed to maybe a low-end thunderstorm. But our front has passed through, so the axis of rain is going to be to the south and the southeast of us. But this cloud cover can give us a good picture of both of those frontal boundaries back to back. You can see this cloud cover stretching all the way up the I-95 corridor. That's going all the way down through areas of central Georgia, maybe southeast central Georgia, so the rain chances are going to be ahead of that. And then frontal boundary number 2 is going to be behind all of this cloud cover that stretches back up as far north as areas like Birmingham, up into northwest Georgia, and all the way up into eastern Tennessee and into western North Carolina. So here's a look at future view over the next 3 days. Won't spend too much time on it. Higher level cloud cover for the rest of today, a steady breeze. But then we transition into Thanksgiving, where a few clouds are still hanging out as we get into sunrise time, maybe giving you a bit of a later sunrise because we have clouds present over to the east. That sun has to peak above the cloud deck in order to make its presence known. And then we go into the afternoon, right there around when many people are probably getting ready for your Thanksgiving feast, an early dinner, a late lunch, whatever you may want to call it. Nothing here in central Georgia. Crystal clear blue skies, and we are going to have some fairly gusty winds tomorrow afternoon. Going into tomorrow evening, more so the nighttime hours, that breeze starts to fall apart. Still nothing in the way of cloud cover. Then we transition into Black Friday. So going to be a clear start to the morning, but we may have some high level cloud cover creep in the hours just past sunset. All in all, a very uneventful forecast over the next 3 days, as opposed to what I have been showing you on Future View with that line of rain and even what we thought were possible storms rolling in overnight this past night and into the early morning hours earlier today. So now let's talk about some of the dew points, some of the winds. There's always something to talk about in the weather department. It may not necessarily be rain, but we are going to continue to watch that yellow color, like I said, on the winds and wind gust graphic. Get a bit more widespread. Winds should be at their peak sometime around 3 p.m., maybe a gust up to 20 miles per hour in some spots. But all in all, I think tomorrow is going to be the windier day. Gusts up to 22, 23, maybe even 25 miles per hour. And then as we go into your Friday, your breeze starts to subside just a little bit. And we're not talking very gusty winds. It's just going to be a bit of a breezy afternoon, something that you notice on occasion. Those sustained winds are probably going to feel pretty good this afternoon, but also we will have winds present, and keep that in mind when I talk about our high temperatures that we have for both Thursday and your Friday. And the humidity, not going to have much more of a lifetime. You can see by 8 p.m. later tonight, there are no shades of green whatsoever. Dew point temperatures go down into the 40s, and they don't stop there. How about this? The upper, maybe even the mid-teens as we roll into some portion of early on Friday, and we keep the dew point temperatures very low as we head into the weekend ahead, indicating that it will continue to be a dry atmosphere. Anything that we have in the way of passing cloud cover is not going to produce any rain, and we won't get any better rain chances until we see an uptick in the moisture content in the atmosphere. So here's your forecast for the next 3 days. That 60% chance of rain, you see it's highlighted for the early morning hours. Now that we're out of the early morning hours, it is going to be a mostly sunny day with a high temperature in the mid 70s. But I mentioned we have a ways to go as we cool down into tomorrow morning. 35 for a morning low on Thanksgiving morning. That's going to be nice and chilly, and the afternoon high of 57 degrees. When you pair that up with the breeze, it is going to be a forecast that you want to stay layered for if you have any outdoor plans. Plan on participating on any turkey bowls tomorrow. It is going to be a chilly afternoon, but not necessarily as chilly as Friday. We continue to watch those numbers go a little bit lower and a little bit lower. 29 degrees as we start Friday morning, mostly sunny skies, and then 53 degrees for a high temperature on Friday. That is getting very reminiscent of that very cold spell we had around Veterans Day. We had high temperatures around the 50-degree mark and paired up with some very gusty winds. We didn't see wind chill values get out of the 30s in some areas. It's not going to be that cold if you can remember what it felt like, say, just over 2 weeks ago in time, but it is still going to be a bit of a chilly afternoon. You won't have as gusty winds present on Friday, maybe a gust up to 15 to 20 miles per hour at the very most. But if you are to get one of those gusts, paired up with temperatures in the low 50s, it is going to be a pretty chilly afternoon, to say the least. So here's your Thanksgiving Day planner. You can see that these temperatures, they look like some of our morning low temperatures over the last couple of days. 41 degrees, a brisk and chilly start right around the 9 a.m. hour, getting into the afternoon when it's about to be turkey time. Still chilly, but it will be paired up with sunshine and a bit of a breeze. And right there around that high temperature of 57 degrees and crystal clear skies. And we continue with the clear skies going down into the low 40s as we go into the late evening, more so really the nighttime frame around 9 p.m. It is going to be perfect sleeping weather after you have a big feast during the afternoon and the evening hours. Going to be a little bit chilly outside, maybe something you could crack open the window for. Obviously, that may result in the rest of the house having to turn the heat up. Maybe not the best decision, but it is going to be a nice forecast to go to sleep to. The only thing that could make it better is maybe a little pitter patter on the window of a light rain shower, but no rain chances whatsoever to talk about. So Thanksgiving over the past 10 years. This Thanksgiving, it might be the chilliest that we've had over the last decade. You can see from 2015 to 2019, it was a whole stretch of what looked like 70s, maybe some 60s, but we did get down into the upper 20s in 2018 for a morning low on Thanksgiving. Didn't record any rain, but as of the last 5 to 6 years now, we look like we're in a pattern of rain one year, dry the next. So kind of alternating if we're going to have dry weather or a bit of dreary weather each and every year. 2020, we recorded just shy of about 3/4 of an inch of rain. We were dry in 2021. 2022 got a very minuscule amount of rain. 2023 also dry. 2024 last year we saw about 2/10 of an inch of rain, so just shy of 1/4 of an inch of rain. And this year we don't look to have any rain in the forecast. So maybe once we transition into 2026, we'll welcome back some more rain chances for Turkey Day. But remember those high temperatures that I did have forecasted. 57 tomorrow afternoon. The closest number that we can find in the high temperature department is going to be back in 2018 of 61 degrees. And your morning low temperature, not going to be the coolest over the last 10 years. That title still goes to 2018 with a low of 29, but we will be somewhere in the mid 30s. So obviously, depending on how you look at it, not exactly the coldest day, but it is going to be the chilliest afternoon that we've had for Thanksgiving Day over the past 10 years. Obviously, this did take some digging. I had to go back and look at different dates because Thanksgiving is never on the same date. I had to go back and look at past Thanksgiving dates and do some research and make sure that I got all these numbers correct. So now taking a look at something else that you may be participating in and may be looking forward to. It is some clean, old-fashioned hate up in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, not at Bobby Dodd Stadium. It's a home game for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Number 4 in the nation, the Georgia Bulldogs, squaring off against number 23, Georgia Tech, who is coming off a tough loss to the Pitt Panthers last weekend. Tailgating time, it is going to be a cold afternoon if you are planning on making the trip up to Atlanta. 43 degrees at the noon hour, and we don't see the temperatures get that much warmer, but very thankfully this game is going to be indoors. I imagine they will have that roof closed off so you can just take in all the heat that will be inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So you can shed the layers as you get into kickoff time, but if you have any outdoor watch parties up in Atlanta near the stadium, it is going to be chilly. And be prepared to throw those layers back on as you are heading home around 7 p.m. Temperatures dipping into the upper 30s, and we'll have some passing cloud cover here and there, nothing in the way of rain chances. And your sunset on Friday evening going to be just shy of, or just before 5:30 p.m. So 5:29 p.m. is when the sun is going to begin to set. It is going to be dark by the time you are heading out of Mercedes-Benz Stadium, hence why your temperatures are going down into the upper 30s. So I imagine many of you have already hit the roads and you are definitely combating some heavy traffic yesterday and today, where we are expecting 2 of the busiest travel days of the entire calendar year. But if you're like myself and you're heading out of town tomorrow, you should expect some light traffic for Thanksgiving and Black Friday. I imagine Black Fridays in the past would have a slight uptick in the traffic. However, Black Friday doesn't seem to be as big of a headline, or maybe people heading out the door really early to go camp out at shops, and that's a very good thing given the temperatures I have for Friday morning. But Saturday we'll start to see that uptick in traffic again, and Sunday is going to be a very, very busy day on the roads because you take into account all the people that went out of town on Tuesday, all the people that have gone out of town today, and you combine them. That's all the people that will be heading back into town on Sunday. Maybe some of you took a PTO day on Monday, wise choice. I would try to avoid being on the road Sunday if you can, but once again, I myself am going to find myself on the roads on Sunday, so just take it a little bit slower, be a little bit more patient. There are a lot of folks that are in the same boat as you. I promise you will make it home eventually, and it's better to be safe than sorry with that amount of people on the roads. We'll kind of zoom through the rest of this forecast. Humidity day by day, it drops off a cliff, but it starts to rebound as we go into Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Keep that in mind when we go to the long-range models in just a moment. Morning low temperatures, mid-30s tomorrow, and then just below freezing temperature Friday and Saturday mornings, but then we begin to warm up. But 36 degrees to start out Sunday morning, that is still going to be a chilly forecast, still below average by about 4 degrees. Your afternoon high temperatures do eventually get out of the 50s after Saturday, 65 on Sunday afternoon, and that is going to be pretty close to your average of 66 degrees, which very well may be 65 degrees by the time we actually get to Sunday. So right there around the average mark as we go into Sunday, and you may think, okay, we're going to warm up even more than that, maybe make the return back into the 70s. Well, not quite, because Saturday is more of the same story as Friday. It's going to be a chilly afternoon, maybe with some passing cloud cover here and there, but another rainmaker starts to make its way in after lunchtime on Sunday. So if you have plans coming back into town, say from North Georgia, coming back over from the west, you are very likely going to encounter your fair share of some scattered rain, and that will continue into the evening hours. So it's just going to be a mess on the road Sunday, no way around it. But then we have the rain chances hang around into Monday morning, and then Monday night into Tuesday. Take a look at that. That's an impressive rainmaker if I've ever seen one over the course of maybe being about 5 to 6 days out. So it does look like not only a whole lot of rain, but a good amount of agreement and a good amount of that green and blue shade all across the southeast. So could we finally see the rainmaker that we need to improve some of those drought conditions that have settled in and maybe put those numbers a little bit farther back above average? The European model is trailing just behind the GFS in green by the time we roll into Tuesday evening. It says the rain chances are going to hang around for a little bit longer, but both have this rainmaker moving out of the picture by next Wednesday. And then I imagine we'll probably have some fairly chilly temperatures to walk outside to as well. Sunday evening is when the GFS model has rain chances starting to pop back up, and that continuing through the beginning of next week. How about that? Some totals up to about 1.5 inches, and you can see this kind of maroon and red shade, this dark red shade. If we get that axis of heaviest rain to maybe shift a little bit down to the south and the southeast, that's rainfall totals in the 3-inch neighborhood. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for that. But we can also take a look at the European, and this gives us a bit of better resolution. This has rain chances moving in as early as Sunday morning around the 9 a.m. hour. And as we continue about the course of Monday, Tuesday into Wednesday, some totals up to 2.5 inches of rain. So like I said, keeping our fingers crossed, this would be some much needed rain, and this would actually do a pretty good job of maybe improving some of our drought conditions. I don't think it completely gets us out of them in all locations, but it is a start, and hopefully we have another widespread rainmaker shortly to follow after that at the beginning of next week. Tropics outlook, still no activity expected in the next 7 days. In fact, hurricane season is coming to a quick close. That will happen in 5 days' time. Sunday will be the last day of the Atlantic hurricane season. One day after, we'll kickstart the month of December. But we do have a lot to look forward to over the course of the next week, with Thanksgiving tomorrow, Black Friday 2 days later, end of hurricane season going to be on Sunday. And then when December starts, I believe that might classify as Cyber Monday too. So make sure that you're breaking out the computer to get a good deal on all those Christmas gifts just a tad bit earlier. So your 7-day forecast is a bit of a roller coaster, specifically between today and tomorrow. We go way down the hill in between 74 down to 57 for a high on Thanksgiving Day. Still stuck in the 50s, and morning low temperatures below freezing Friday and Saturday mornings. Then a slight warming trend, but when we welcome back those rain chances, a lot of cloud cover should keep our numbers just a bit cooler as we roll into the month of December. And I do see your rain chances steadily increasing starting on Sunday into Monday and then eventually Tuesday. Maybe overnight Monday into Tuesday morning is when we're looking at the most widespread rain. And once again, keeping our fingers crossed that we can get some totals upwards to 2, 3, maybe even 4 inches to finally improve some of those drought conditions that have stood for so long. So that's going to do it. We'll be back here at 11 a.m. and then at midday on Friday. We don't have a midday show, so we have moved this stream to the 12 p.m. hour. Make sure to tune in and catch Ansley Parker as she'll give you an in-depth look about what to expect for the rest of Thanksgiving weekend and the beginning of the month of December. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.